Welcome to DFS JAGS PGA Golf Show 2021 CJ Cup DraftKings picks and bets, where we literally hand out winners every other week. My co-host, breaking down the field, the course, and all things Vegas golf, the host of the Nickel City Mafia weekly fantasy football show, Dr. Riku Mukherjee. Rick, what's going on, man?
What's up, man? Cheers. I got my little Masters Cup here, ready to go. I'm playing a lot of golf this week. I'm pumped up. Let's go.
Yeah, you got a big golf week. We got some people coming into town. You got a bunch of rounds scheduled at some nice courses this week.
Yeah, two of my best friends are coming in from Maryland. They're staying at my house. I've been pretty much sitting around the house. I worked like half day today, and just been kind of helping my wife clean the house up a little bit today. And then we're playing Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then they go back to Maryland.
Very nice. Yeah. Were you able to secure a round at Torrey? I know we were going back and forth on that before.
So it's a little complicated. Basically, my buddy that's in San Diego booked the tee time, and we're gonna try to grab his ID and try to check in with him and see if we can get on. If not, we'll go play Madeiras instead of Torrey Pines if that doesn't go through.
Yeah, I'm sure nobody's ever tried that before. So people have tons of success trying to sneak onto Torrey Pines.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I hope no one at Torrey's watching this show right now, so they know that we're trying to sneak on Friday. We're not really trying to sneak on, but we just
you don't want to pay $250 to play a course you can play for $70.
But that's the thing, though. I would honestly pay that, and then my friends would pay that too. But we had to book the tee time under a San Diego resident because they only open up 5 tee times per day for non-San Diego residents. So I didn't get a chance to book a tee time under myself. So my buddy who lives in San Diego had to book it. So we'll see. If not, we have a backup plan. And the other 3 days we have secure tee times, and we're good to go there.
Yeah, it's a good week. The weather's starting to cool down here in San Diego. In San Diego, cool down, right? It's we're coming down from 85 down to 75. So it'll be pristine. It has been windy though, so you might have to deal with that out there. But it'll be a good week for golf, and kind of fits into everything we got going on here. We've got a good tournament out in Vegas. This is, I guess, technically week 2, but the Bryson deal happened out here the week prior. So, I guess you could say it's 3 weeks in the desert. So, but it's a good tournament. I mean, obviously it's a 78-man field. It is a new course. I think this is the 3rd or 4th course that they've played in this tournament, but the field's stacked, man. It's a good looking card.
Yeah. I was actually pretty surprised by the field strength, but a lot of these guys are, I'm sure, playing to tee it up because there's no cut and they get guaranteed money here. So they get a pretty much a free paycheck. But let's talk about last week. You had another winner in Sungjae, and you look good, man.
I know, man. It's crazy because it's gotten to the point now where when I don't win, I get pissed off. Where I'm like, I have so many guys in contention. I had Sungjae and Wolf.
Yeah.
Each and every week I've got somebody that's in contention. I'm hitting on a clip where it's every 3rd, 4th week I'm hitting a winner. So it may sound weird, but if I don't have a guy in contention, I don't even want to watch the tournament. That's how strong of a run I've been on.
Yeah, it means your model's working, man. It's hard to hit a winner, but just having someone in contention on Sunday makes it even more interesting. And I had a Wolf ticket last week. I told you on that, and
we both did. Yeah,
he was the favorite going into Sunday, live odds wise. He was the favorite, and I thought I had a chance there. And Sungjae just, I didn't really watch much of the Sunday round. I was busy with family things and stuff like that. I didn't really watch football either on Sunday, but from what I saw and what I've heard, he didn't hit a bad shot on Sunday. He just played a perfect round of golf, I think.
Dude, he won the tournament through the first 9 holes on Sunday. I mean, he was so far out in front of everyone else. There was Wolf had to play absolutely perfect golf down the stretch, and he didn't. He played okay, but Sungjae went super low, super early, and he basically had to par out the last 9 holes in order to secure a victory, and he played fantastic. To be honest with you, I was rooting for Wolf as well. I had a way bigger nugget on Wolf than I did Sungjae. So you and I were both on him. I'm thinking, okay, this would be good, be a double winner. I kept waiting for Wolf to make his move, but he just never got there. I mean, I'm happy to get the W with Sungjae, but it probably cost me, nickel, maybe a dime. So, again, the fact, to your point, that we keep hitting winners, we talked about it here a couple weeks ago, but you and I have been betting, and we're somewhere in the neighborhood of like 42 tournaments going through basically the beginning of last season, and we've hit like 25 winners. That's just insane.
Yeah.
So, but it's good, man. To your point, it means like the methodology, the way that we're approaching things, the way that we're looking at the models and all the statistics, it's working. So, if anybody out there wants to win any money, just pay attention to the show and just follow our bets. Just fast forward all the way to the end, because Mike puts the time codes in there. Just fast forward all the way to the end and just go to the bets are. And then when we tell you what our bets are, just bet those. But you had a good DraftKings week too.
Yeah, I didn't have a ticket, but DraftKings was crazy last week. The 6 of 6 percentage was under 1%. So like literally like less than 1% of the field has a 6 of 6. So if you had a 6 of 6, you were pretty much golden last week. I played a lot of cash games last week against people, and my main lineup that I played in all my cash games had a 4 of 6, which was basically the nuts, because the guys I was playing against had like 1 of 6, 2 of 6 through the cut. So I pretty much locked up my contest that I was going to net a profit for the week on Friday when 4 of my guys made the cut. And then I was looking at my opponents, and they all had like 1 or 2 people. These are like professional DFS players that had like 1 or 2 guys that made the cut. And so I had a pretty good DraftKings week. I think I like 2x or 2.5x my money, and I didn't hit a ticket. It would have been nice to hit Wolf, but I also had a good week in football too. So it was an overall net positive week. So that's always good.
And that's all you can ask for, right? Like when we're doing it week in and week out, when even if you break even, right? Like it's all entertainment. So I guess it doesn't really matter. It's like you and I aren't doing this to pay our mortgage or anything like that. Like we're not selling content. We're doing this because we love it. But the fact that you had a 2x week, like, and I hit a winner, like that's a good weekend. Like that's good momentum, and it propels us into this week. So before we get into particulars this week, I do want to mention it, because if I don't, producer Mike will absolutely lose his mind. But the Josh Allen autograph helmet giveaway is going on right now. It takes basically a kind act of service. You click the link in the description of this video, you follow the prompts, and you tell us about something nice that you did for another human being, right? And boom, you're entered into the deal. It also unlocks a bunch of other ways to enter. And in this show, and each and every one of the shows that we do on the Nickel City Mafia Network, we have a bonus code, which gets you 5 extra entries into the into the drawing. The drawing will be happening, I think, at the end of this month. Is that right, Rick?
Yeah, at the end of this month on a Bills post-game show with Mike.
That's right. And Mike's going to be headed back to Buffalo here pretty soon. So, he's all fired up about that. But the bonus code for this show is NCMEST2021, which stands for Nickel City Mafia, established 2021. But one more time, it's NCMEST2021. That is your bonus code. It gets you 5 extra entries into the drawing to win the Josh Allen autographed helmet giveaway at the end of this month. All right, I've done my due diligence. I'm done. Like, we paid the bills, Mike. We're good. We're gonna go into content.
Real quick though, Josh Allen autographed helmet. After watching him play this past Sunday, he could be the MVP of this league. That's gonna be worth a pretty penny when he's a Hall of Famer in the future.
They looked so good, and it's like I was talking to Mike before we got into the show. The Bills looked fantastic, but I feel like the recipe for stopping the Chiefs is kind of out there now. Like guys have figured out the way to like the antidote to that, to what the Chiefs do so well. And you've seen the Ravens do it. You've seen the Bills do it. So I'm curious to get your thoughts on that, because, you and I and Chris talked about the Chiefs being like the best team in the league, and they haven't looked that way.
I mean, I'll be the first to admit I was dead wrong on that game. I thought getting a field goal at home with Mahomes in a primetime spot like that was perfect time to right the ship for the Chiefs. But they just can't stop anyone. Their defense is atrocious. They literally can't stop like a college team possibly at this point. But Josh Allen looks good. The Bills look good, and the Chiefs look like a broken team right now. But I think they'll eventually right the ship and make the playoffs, and we'll see them again in January. But right now, they just look like a broken team, and they have another tough game this week out on the road in Washington. So we'll see. But me and Chris are going to dive into that really deep on tomorrow night's show, and we'll talk about how good the Bills are. But Bills Mafia, guys are looking good. They look like probably the best team in the AFC right now and Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, honestly, they do. The other team that surprised me this year with how well they've played, and again, we talked about it, preseason, them having a pretty weak schedule, is the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys are, I think they're 3 or 4-1. They look really good. They beat a terrible Giants team that lost their best 3 offensive players during the course of the game. But yeah, I mean, the Bills look fantastic. I'm excited, and for Mike and the Bills Mafia out there, all of the crazy people, diving through tables and slamming their girlfriends off the top of RVs and campers, all the nutty stuff that people in Buffalo do. Pump for that crew. Hopefully nobody dies pre-game celebrating any of the victories that they have. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump into this week. We've got the 2021 CJ Cup live, like we talked about earlier, from the Summit Club in Las Vegas. It's a par 72, 7,400 yards. We're back on bent. It's 2 weeks in a row. 2020's champ was Jason Kokrak, but again, let's remember, this is a brand new course. They played it, I think, at Shadow Creek last year. This year it's being played at the Summit Club. We don't expect a lot of differences in terms of how difficult the course will play. It is desert golf, and from everybody that's around there, Rick Gaiman talked about it earlier this week in a couple of his shows and on the pod that he did with Pat Mayow. It should be a very gettable course for these guys. And because it's in the desert, the ball is going to travel a lot further. So it's going to bring into play a lot of guys that, normally wouldn't. The key stats for me this week are going to be strokes gained approach, off the tee. I'm leaning more fairways than distance. And the big reason why is kind of what I mentioned with the thin air. Guys who don't hit the ball 330 yards are still going to hit it 310. And so a lot of these short par 4s are going to become drivable holes. I think it's going to be very, very scoreable. There's not a lot of trouble out there. So I think you're going to see a lot of scoring, which is why birdies are better. Is going to be important. Par 4 scoring to me on this course, the par 5s, everybody's going to do very, very well. Everybody's going to walk away with birdie. If you don't, you're going to be losing ground to the field. So par 4 scoring will be even more important because everybody will be throwing up birdies on par 5s. The other thing that I took a look at was just comp course history. It is a Fazio design. So in addition to Shadow Creek, you've got other places like Quail Hollow where Fazio designed the course. And then, of course, I'm also looking at some of the other desert tracks out there, right? Guys who play well in Scottsdale and play well out in Palm Springs. That style of golfer this week. So with that all being said, Rick, what are you looking at this week?
Yeah, pretty much the same things. Obviously, I don't know much about the course. I can only go based on what the statistics and the description that people are giving me. And from what I heard on other podcasts this week, it looks like the rough is chopped down and there's not much rough trouble. So you can bomb it out there, and if you're in the rough, you're not really in that much trouble. It's going to be a wedge fest, I think, for this course. So wedges and putters, and whoever you think is going to be, the wedge and bent green putting master this week, that's the guy you're going to try to target. But these guys are so good. We will get into it a little bit, but we know some of these guys are Vegas residents. A couple of these guys in the field are members of this club. So those are the guys that are getting chalked up in ownership a little bit, just because we know that they play at this club like all the time. And so, but yeah, typical desert track. I think last year Shadow Creek is a pretty good comp. And then, like you said, PGA West and La Quinta and Waste Management. Those are good comp courses for this, and those are the guys I'll be looking at. But I do like the fact that it's a Fazio design. So Quail Hollow, like you said, is a pretty good comp because he's the same designer. So yeah.
Yeah, Quail Hollow always makes you think of Rory, right? Because Rory's won there so many times. Rory's a busted man. But that also leads us into the top of the board. The guys above 10K, there are 6 names: DJ, JT, Morikawa, Xander, Jordan Spieth, and of course the guy I just mentioned, Rory McIlroy. I'll start at the bottom there. Rory is probably the biggest conundrum for me on this list. He's played like absolute garbage, played terrible all the way through. Pretty much the story for him, right? And bad for Rory is like T20s, but he's definitely not been that elite player that he's been throughout his career. Really struggled most of the year to contend and compete, and then he wins at Quail Hollow out of nowhere. So we're at a course that is a Fazio design. It is a comp course to Quail Hollow. I'm curious your thoughts on Rory being the lowest price guy in the 10Ks, and if there's any way that you can find or make an argument to put him into your lineups.
Can't get there this week, man. He just I don't know. He just doesn't seem like the Rory McIlroy we know, and he just played awful at the Ryder Cup 2 weeks ago. And
yeah,
I just can't get there with him. I mean, this is a course design that's good for him. This is a course that should suit him. His biggest driver is his weapon. He can just bomb it out there, wedge and putt, but that's just not Rory right now. He's just not ball striking well. I need to see it from him, man. I need to see some sort of like turning around in his game to at least like I don't think that Rory is that guy that just like is going to play bad for like 5 weeks and then pop and win. I think he's the type of guy that like turns his game around slowly and is going to like start gaining strokes approach, start gaining strokes off the tee, starts gaining strokes putting. And then when he does that and gets that confidence, that's when he's going to win a tournament. So I just can't get there with Rory. There's guys in this 10K range that I'd much rather play over him.
Yeah, I feel the same way you do. He just lacks fire, momentum. There's just nothing there. The guys in this range, as I kind of look at the board, I feel like Rory at the bottom and DJ at the top are probably the two guys that are going to have the least amount of ownership. Jordan Spieth, another one, even though we talked a little bit about this off the tee game in terms of not having elite level ball striking or not being an elite guy off the tee, it's not going to be as important this week because there's not a lot of trouble out there. With that being said, you've got guys like JT Morikawa and Xander in here who are, the best ball strikers in the game. So I feel like Spieth, McIlroy, and DJ are probably going to go under-owned. You mentioned it earlier, but we do have a resident of this course, a guy who calls this place home, and that's Colin Morikawa.
Yeah, he's a member here. He practices there daily when he's not playing on tour, and you just go there and you'll probably run into him on the range or something like that. But then again, you have to be a member here. This is a pretty premier course. I don't think me and you can get on this course. But
probably
yeah,
not.
Yeah. So Colin Morikawa was my favorite play up here. He played great at the Ryder Cup. He was paired up with DJ. I do like DJ, to be completely honest with you. I think the books were. They didn't want to get burned this week by DJ. He had 5 points at the Ryder Cup, played outstanding. But that's why they priced him up so high. That's why he's the favorite to win this tournament. But I do like DJ here. I like Colin Morikawa here. I know you like Xander. Xander's also a Vegas resident, so I don't know how exactly I feel about Xander in this spot. I mean, him being 10-6 right there with these guys is usually where he's priced at, but I think my favorite plays here are DJ and Colin Morikawa. And then the leverage play here is Jordan Spieth, because he's coming in way lower ownership than any of the other guys up here, and no one seems to be playing Jordan Spieth this week. So if you're looking for leverage in a tournament where there's no cut and all your guys are going to make the cut this week, unless there's a withdrawal, there's going to be, unlike last week where sub 1% 6-6, you're going to get 100% 6-6 this week. You have to find these spots of leverage for ownership and try to get different and stuff like that, leaving money on the table, similar to the no cut events we talked about before. So leave money on the table, try to get the lower owned guys, and the lower owned guy here is Jordan. And I don't mind Jordan in this spot where he can be a little erratic with his driver. I don't think there's any much penalty areas or anything like that. So I think Jordan is a pretty decent play up here as well.
Yeah, the only thing that concerns me with Jordan is, you mentioned Morikawa and Xander, is if you feel confidently that those two guys are going to be, competing on Sunday to win the tournament, I mean, you lose a lot with Jordan. There's obviously a lot of variance in a guy like Spieth, where he could be T2, he could win the tournament, but he could also finish T53. Mm-hmm. And to invest that kind of money into a guy that has that variance, and that's being reflected in the ownership, right? So,
yeah,
if it's one of those things where you're making multiple entries, which I won't be doing this week, I don't like to do, 150 or even more than 20 lineup builds in these small fields. But let's say if you were doing 150 lineups on DraftKings, I could see sprinkling some Spieth in, but I just feel like you're giving up way too much with a guy, not going to a guy like Justin Thomas or Morikawa or Xander.
Yeah, tell me about Xander. I know you like him. I'm kind of on the fence with him this week. So tell me why you like him this week.
The big thing for me with Xander is I like Xander on bent. I like Xander in no cut events. He's had some time off. He played really well through the playoffs and then through the Ryder Cup. So I think he's got a little momentum. We haven't seen him since the Ryder Cup, and obviously he lost the Sunday match to Rory. But again, you get Xander in no-cut events. You mentioned he's a Vegas resident, so he's seen this course probably multiple times. And I feel like the floor on him is very, very high. I like Xander a lot, which is probably what a lot of people like is Xander. The other thing that I do like a lot about Xander, just from a stat perspective, is just his approach game. I mean, you're talking about a top 3, top 4 guy in approach coming into the tournament. So I really do think approach is going to be the key stat. Like we talked about, off the tee, it's not going to matter. The greens are large, so it's really going to come down to, you know, how close you can stick a ball to the pin and whether or not, you mentioned, you can sink some putts. And, you know, he is better on bent than other surfaces. So for those reasons, I like Xander. And then, of course, the discount, the $500 discount off of JT. I mean, to me, the two guys are JT and Morikawa here, but Xander's right there. And the fact that I'm getting a $500 discount off of JT, who I believe also has more variance, right? Like JT could finish, you know, T36. I just like the safe play. And that's probably why those two guys are, you know, the most heavily owned. To your point, you want to get some leverage, take Spieth. But for me here, it's Morikawa and Xander.
Yeah, for sure. JT is I don't know, man. It's no secret that JT is one of the best ball strikers in the world, tee to green, but dude just can't putt. I just go back to thinking about that first day at the Ryder Cup, and him and Jordan were paired together, and the guy just like literally could not make a single putt. I just don't know what it is with him. I don't know if he's worked on it for the last couple of weeks, but
yeah.
If we get a spike JT putting week, he's going to win the tournament by like 3 strokes. Like, I mean, come on, like the guy's like one of the best players in the world. So pick your poison here. Obviously, you're going to be most likely starting your lineups with one of these guys. They just have too much win equity with, you know, being able to win the tournament. So if you're going to start your lineups, I doubt you're fading all of these guys to start your lineup and starting in the 9K. You could, I guess. I mean, I like Hovland. We'll get into that in a minute, but that would make you different for sure. But you're most likely starting your lineup with 1, maybe even 2 of these guys, and then dropping down to like the 7s and 6s and stuff like that. But the Xander and Morikawa are coming in the chalkiest, but I think they're the obvious plays of her.
You mentioned it, dropping down into the 9Ks. We've got some good names, and I could see the first 3 guys at the top of the $9,000, maybe replacing the guys that are at the bottom of the 10,000s, and that's Hovland, Burns, and Koepka. You know, anytime you can get Brooks Koepka sub $10,000, I feel like it's a discount. Other guys in this range: Finau, Im, fresh off the win, Matsuyama, Louis, Cam Smith, Answer, and Scheffler. Obviously, the latter of the last 2 guys, Answer and Scheffler, both missed the cut last week. It's the first tournament that they've played since the end of the season. Obviously, Scheffler was in the Ryder Cup, but you know, could be a buy low spot here for both of those guys. Who do you like in the 9Ks? I already know what you're going to say, but I feel like I have to ask you anyways.
Big Dick Vic, man. He's my guy. I love him. He's just I love him even more. I saw him. I saw him a video of him on Instagram just playing poker at Red Rock in Vegas, and just like apparently he loves playing poker. That's like my kind of dude. And then instead of practicing golf, he's over there playing poker in the casinos. But yeah, he's such a good ball striker, tee to green, and I love Victor, and I think he has a good chance to win this week. He's going to be my play here in the 9Ks. I like the leverage we're getting with Sungjae. Honestly, coming off of a win, he seems to be him and Hideki seem to be the lowest owned in this range. So if you're looking for leverage, Sungjae and Hideki are the 2 lowest owned players in this range. And then my next favorite play after Vic is going to be Cam Smith. We haven't seen Cam Smith since the Tour Championship. It's been a little while since we've seen him, but he played really well last year. We talked about it on our shows. He was one of the highest DK scorers in the field. He loves Fazio designs. That's one thing for sure. He plays really well on Fazio courses. So I bet him this week. I'm going to be heavy on him in my DraftKings lineup, and I'm going to go to Cam Smith. And, you know, he's going to be my play there in the low 9Ks, especially after seeing how bad Answer and Scheffler played last week.
Yeah, you know, for me, everything that you said about Hovland rings true. And I've heard it mentioned all over the place, but it's worth mentioning again. The guy lost 9 strokes last week around the green. That's insane, right? So I went back and looked, like, over his last 50 rounds, he's lost about a stroke around the greens. Even going into 25 rounds, it's about the same. But his last 10 and his last 5 events, he's lost 1.6 and 3 strokes on average around the greens. The only thing that scares me about that is at a tournament where we expect everyone to go low, And everyone he's one of the best approach guys, if not the best approach player in the field. But if he misses a green, the likelihood that he bogeys is obviously much higher than anybody else out there. And that's scary where you're talking about a tournament where you could potentially have 22, 23, 24 under on a very easy, very gettable course. So that's the only thing. And, you could make the same argument about a guy who's a terrible putter, right? If the guy can't putt, you're going to have the same issue. It's a wedge versus the flat stick. But that's the only reason. And then the other reason I'll be staying away from Vic is just ownership. I mean, I don't know how many builds are going to start Hovland, Morikawa, Hovland, Xander. Those will be the most popular builds. Yep. So for me, even though I think he's going to play well, he's going to score points, because of the ownership piece, I am going to pivot here. The guy that I like is the guy that you mentioned that's coming in long to Sungjae. And if we go back to like a guy like Sam Burns, what we've seen is when guys win, right, they're typically on a heater, they win, and then everybody jumps off the bandwagon, but they're still playing great golf. So while I don't think Sungjae is going to win the tournament this week, I saw enough out of him where he played absolutely fantastic. He had his best round on Sunday. I could see him continuing to play very, very well at a course that's going to set up very similar to what we saw last week.
He could win this week. I don't see why not. I don't think Sungjae won on Sunday and went out like raging in Vegas or something like that. Like I don't think like he was partying. I'm pretty sure he was playing golf the next day. So probably at the Summit Club because he didn't have to fly anywhere. So he probably like went home, had a dinner and went to bed and played Summit Club on Monday. So I don't think it's a situation where it's like you need to fade off of him because he's coming off of a win. Sungjae he's good. I mean, he's a solid. Obviously, he's proven to be a solid desert golf player. So Sungjae, low ownership. I'm in, man. I'm in.
Yeah, I love him. And then the other guy, which is I know you tweeted it out, and you also sent me a text message about Abraham Ancer. Like I think this is a buy low scenario. Like again,
he was one of my guys that missed the cut in my main lineup last week. I started my lineup to Abe last week.
Dude, Ancer and Scheffler burned so many people last week that a lot of people are just going to stay away. And for me, like the pivot opportunities in this range are much more solid than the pivot opportunities up top at 10K or below at 8,000. I really like Ancer this week in terms of the way that he sets up for what he does well here. Yeah. Again, a ball striking phenomenon. The guy typically can't putt, and the one time that he did putt, which was the WGC, wins. So it's just one of those things. I don't know if I can go back to Scotty Scheffler. He just played, dude. He played terrible, and the ball striking was god awful last week.
Yeah, it was really bad. I don't know, man. That like I would understand if like you want to go to these guys that maybe shot like 4 under last week or 3 under last week and missed the cut. But both of these guys shot over par last week. I mean, on that course, that's just inexcusable. Like you can play, these guys can have their like Abraham Ancer and Scotty Scheffler can have their B- C+ game and still shoot under par at Shriners. Like that's just unacceptable. Something was off with their games last week. I don't know if they just were rusty or something. I just don't know. But yeah, I'm off both of those two. I'd rather go to Cam Smith, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, I'm usually a Cam Smith guy. Like you talked about it, he just scores a ton. I mean, just a bucket load of points because he throws up a ton of birdies, a ton of eagles, and he gags back a lot of bogeys. But for DraftKings, it's a great recipe, right? And he just kind of goes. He kind of goes under the radar because he doesn't do the ball striking well, which is most people look for. His around the green game, his putting is just phenomenal. And when he gets hot, man, he makes runs. We saw it a couple times last week or last year. The only thing that I worry about with Cam Smith is he's a much better putter on POA than he is any other surface. Yeah. A lot of the Australian guys, they like to putt on POA. It's similar to what they put back home in Australia. But, I could see using Cam Smith on DraftKings this week. He's probably not a guy that I would bet. I like the volatility in a guy like Ancer this week more in the betting market, but I could see a case for Cam Smith on DraftKings, and I will be using it on DraftKings this week as well too.
Yeah, cool. But yeah, we talked about the chalkiness of Victor Hovland, but we didn't actually even mention the chalkiest guy that's coming in this range, and that's Louis O, man. It's weird. Like he was like so under the radar last week. He didn't he just finished a solid like top 15, like played all right, played good. Like no one really talked about him last week, but he's coming in super chalky this week. In this range, he's the highest owned player, and I don't really know how I feel about that.
Yeah, the thing that scares me about that is, a lot of what Louis did last year where he had, inarguably his best year on tour, was putting based. He had his best putting year in his career, and so far in the couple of tournaments that he's played, he has not putted well. So I don't know if the putting's reverted back to the mean, and now we're just getting regular old Louis again. But the ball striking's still there. He did a phenomenal job at Shriners off the tee and on approach. It was literally on the greens. The guy could not putt. So I just wonder if that flips back this week in a smaller field on a very similar course. For me, because of the chalk.
I like Louis. I like Louis in these tough fields, but the chalk is just not for me. I'd rather go to, like I said, Cam Smith right below him, or I'd rather go up to Sung Jae or Hideki, or maybe even Finau, who's also a Vegas resident. These guys are the plays that I like over a chalky Louis for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even talk about Finau anymore because it's just like I expect him to come in at 20 to 30% ownership in a small field like this.
Yeah.
He's after getting the win. I think he's back to being everybody's darling again, where he had kind of fallen off for a little while. So I'm happy for him, and I think he'll play well here. To your point, he's from Utah. He's a Vegas resident, so playing desert courses, playing elevation, that he's used to all of that stuff. Yeah. So, it's not a big ask to see him play well here. I mean, I could see even a case for him winning here. Again, his best weapon is the driver. And, if he can hit it out there 320, 330 yards and have a wedge in his hand, that's a great recipe for Finau. He's one of the best wedge players on tour. So, what
about the hottest player on the planet right now, Mr. Burns?
Yeah, I think Burns is finally. I was waiting for it to happen, and it happened on Sunday. Which
he had one bad round on Sunday. We can let that go, right?
It's just, to me, it's a sign that he's regressing back to the mean. And the other thing too is he does well in terrible fields. He doesn't have a great track record when the field is very strong and showing up. And again, it's not a knock on him. Like I could fully see it. I just see at $9,800 when you've got, Brooks Koepka or Tony Finau or Sung Jae Im at a cheaper price. I can't get there with him.
Yeah. Just can't deny his game right now. I mean, he had one bad round on Sunday, but his last 7 rounds before that have just been literally fire. So I guess we always like him on Bermuda compared to Bent, but I don't know. I like Sam Burns. I think he's such a stud. I could see him playing well this week.
Yeah, I mean, I expect him to play well. I mean, he lost strokes putting like we expect. That's 2 tournaments in a row. He lost strokes putting in Sanderson where he actually won.
Yeah.
The last tournament that he gained a bunch of strokes putting, he was terrible everywhere else, and that was at the Tour Championship. So I don't know. Like I said, I like him better on Bermuda, but he just won a tournament at Sanderson, was that on Bermuda or was it on Bent?
Sanderson was Bent.
Yeah, so he just won a tournament on Bent. So again, I could see it happening. For me, with a guy like Burns, it's going to come down to ownership. If he's going to come in under owned, like if he's sub 12, 13%, which is a big ask in a 78-man field.
No. Sorry. Sanderson was in Jackson,
Mississippi. Yeah, I think it was
Bermuda. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I just, we'll see. He putted well, to your point, all week at Shriners last week on Bent. We talked about how it's going to be a very similar course. So, you can take the one round as an anomaly, like you're saying, or like I'm doing it, that he's going back to being the guy that he's always been.
Okay. Yeah. All right, let's drop down to 8s.
So in the 8,000s, we've got Harris English at the top, Fleetwood Simpson, Leishman, who played really, really well last week, Kokrak, the guy who won this tournament last year, and then a couple Euros, Hatton and Lowry and Casey, Adam Scott, who just continues to be, king ball striker, at least with his approach. The driver has fallen off a little bit, and then Patrick Reed, who I think you and I both thought there could be something there last week at Shriners, and it turns out it was just a big sack of dog crap.
Nope. He played like crap.
Yeah, he played absolutely terrible. But we've got an interesting mix of guys. I would say that this area, the $8,000, what you have here is a bunch of guys who have a really, really low floor and a bunch of guys who have a pretty, pretty low ceiling compared to the guys in the 9s and the 10s. Harris English is probably the safest bet here. You mentioned it earlier, a couple guys that missed the cut, but shot 4 or 5 under. Webb Simpson is that guy. He was my favorite guy last week, and he just didn't have enough firepower to get it done. I don't see him winning in a field like this, especially after he played the way that he played last week, where it was just kind of mundane. Didn't do anything great, didn't do anything terrible, but Webb Simpson, I can't see getting there. Mark Leishman is the one that I'm interested in.
He played good last week.
Yeah, he played really, really good, but this is also kind of like Mark Leishman that we've seen the last 2 or 3 years, where it's like terrible, 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 top 5, terrible, 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 top 10. And I just don't know what version we're going to get. He's just so variable. I usually like him more on POA. We talked about that, that Aussie on POA narrative, but I don't know, man. What do you think about Leishman this week?
I like him. To be completely honest with you, this AK range I'm not feeling it at all. It's a dead range for me, to be completely honest with you. I know you got to play some guys here. I like Leishman. I could see him playing well again. I mean, he played well at the Fortinet too a few weeks ago. So he's definitely playing better than he did last season already. So I don't mind Leishman here. I think my favorite players, I think I'm probably just going to go back to Jason Kokrak. I mean, he obviously is the defending champion at a different course here. Played well in Vegas last year. I mean, why not? He seems like a pretty good course for him. The thing that scares me about Kokrak, though, seems like his putting is coming back to normal compared to last year. He was insane with his putter last year, but the last few tournaments and going into last season, he hasn't been putting that great. So that's a little worrisome. But I don't really have any other really opinions in this range. Chalkiest guy is Paul Casey. I'm going to fade that, obviously. Chalky Paul Casey after he played like crap last week. I'm out on Paul Casey this week for sure, but I could see going back to Webb. Like I said, he shot -4, missed the cut. He played pretty well last week. We know he likes playing desert golf. He won the Waste Management and stuff like that. So I could see going back to Webb, but I think my favorite play here is probably Kokrak and probably Leishman, to be completely honest with you.
What about the 3 Euros? Fleetwood, Hatton, and Lowry. All 3 of them played really, really well at the Alfred Dunhill a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Hatton and Lowry finished inside the top 5. I think Fleetwood finished inside the top 10. I get it. Totally different style of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it was raining. It was windy. It was gnarly. Danny Willett wins it. But, Hatton's a guy, I think he played well here last year. I want to say that he had a top 5 or a top 10 here last year. Obviously, it was at Shadow Creek, not at this course.
Yeah.
And then Lowry's a guy who we see pop up in no-cut events. He won at Firestone here 5 or 6 years ago. He's played well at WGCs. What do you think of the 3 Euro guys in this price range?
If I was going to power rank them, I would probably go Hatton, Lowry, Fleetwood. To be completely honest with you,
Same.
I love Fleetwood. He's my guy, but just never plays well in America. To be completely honest with you, he plays well overseas and just hasn't played well in America in a really long time. So I'm out on him. I would say Hatton is probably the safest between the two, but Lowry did play really well last year on tour and can't deny the ball striking and everything like that. So those are pretty much like 1A and 1B for me. I could see it going to both of those, but out of those 2 guys, I would, I don't know. Lowry played better at the Ryder Cup than Hatton did. I don't know. It's a toss up between those 2. I like both of them, but yeah, I would rather, definitely don't want to play Fleetwood. I think I'd rather go to the other 2.
Yeah, to me, Fleetwood's overpriced. I think Hatton's probably the best of the 3. Of course, I'm a Hatton truther, so Mike jumps on me all the time because I typically have Hatton on my betting card and in my DraftKings pool every single time he plays.
Yeah.
But he obviously did not have a very good season this last year. For me in this range, like you, it's tough. And I think for a lot of folks, that's why the ownership is coming in so low. It's going to be really difficult to fit one of these guys in with somebody at the top of the board and somebody in the 9Ks. And with so many people starting, like I said, Morikawa Hovland or, Xander Hovland, it's going to be really tough to stuff.
You can't play one of these guys unless you're dropping really low in the 6Ks, and I don't know how I feel about that this week.
Yeah, the 6Ks you can't really go very low. I mean, you've got a bunch of Asian guys down at the bottom there, and other than that, it's pretty sparse. So if you're going to try and stuff a guy in, which is another reason why I think Casey's getting some ownership when I didn't expect him to this week. I thought maybe we might get non-chalky Paul Casey, which is the Paul Casey I love. Turns out, no, at 8,200, he's the only guy in the 8Ks anybody's willing to stuff into their lineup.
What are your thoughts on Adam Scott? He's been quietly playing decent golf the last couple events. I'm not really sure how I feel about him. He just doesn't doesn't pop. He doesn't play bad. He just kind of grinds and finishes like 25th or something like that. Like, I don't know how I feel about him.
Yeah, I mean, Adam Scott, I think we finished 35th last week. He missed the cut at the Northern Trust, which is the only event he played in the playoff season at the end of the year. So, for me, like, the big thing with Adam Scott is he continues to play really, really well with approach, which I think is going to be the key corollary stat. His off the tee game, though, has been kind of wonky. You know what I mean? Where he's always historically been an immaculate a ball striker with, elite off the tee game. As he's gotten older, that's kind of waned. He's gotten very, very good with the putter, which is crazy to think about. So we swapped the driver for the putter. But if you think that driving doesn't matter and that you're going to want approach game and a good putter, why not Adam Scott? I mean, if you think about it, he's been gaining with his putting over his last, 50, 60 rounds pretty much continuously. His approach game is still some of the best on earth. It's just the off the tee that he's really been struggling with. So I could
coming in super low owned. I like it. 5% Adam Scott. I could definitely see playing that.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about Paul Casey, that's going to be stupid chalky.
Yeah,
drop down $100 and you got Adam Scott right there. And again, if you buy that narrative, I could see making him a staple in lineups.
Yeah, that's the obvious pivot right there. Either if instead of playing Paul Casey, either going up $100 to Lowry or dropping $100 to Scott, and or Reed if you want to take that risk. But I'm not taking that risk this week.
Yeah,
I'm out on Reed this week.
Reed for DraftKings is out. I love Reed as a bet this week, and we'll get into that as we get into the card. Dropping down into that next range, the 7,000s, it's headlined by Justin Rose, who is probably the person that I hate the most on the planet. But right after him, you've got you've got Max Homa, who's fresh off a win, Siwoo Kim, Garcia, Wise, a lot of really good names. We talked about Mav McNeely, who is a resident and a member at this course. Taylor Gooch, who is a bunch of people are all over Gooch this week. At the bottom of the list, which is where I want to start the conversation, is Jason Day, who's been absolutely terrible for the better part of, 2 years. The only other guy that I can think that's fallen off farther than Jason Day over the last year and a half, I was thinking Ricky Fowler. Fowler is the only guy that I can think of.
Wait till you see what Ricky Fowler is priced this week. Yeah, we'll get there in a minute. We're not even in that range.
I know. It's so sad. But I mean, Jason Day, is there any way that Jason Day finds a way into No.
I can't even give him give him baby swag. He just had a kid like last month. I can't even give him that because he's so bad at golf.
Yeah, I mean, he's just it's not been good. He's never been like an elite level ball striker, right?
Yeah.
He's never been that guy where it's like tee to green. He's unbelievable. We love Jason Day because he was a great driver of the golf ball. He was unbelievable around the greens, and then of course putting. And, the last time we saw him was at the Northern Trust, and he lost strokes in every single category.
I mean, you just look at who he's priced next to. That should tell you the story. He's priced next to Cameron Tringali, Alex Noren, Russell Henley, Keegan Bradley. Like, he should not be priced with these guys. He's way better of a talent than these guys, but he's priced there because he sucks.
Yeah, I don't know if it's injuries, age, lack of focus, but he's completely fallen off.
Yeah.
I'm done talking about Jason Day. Yeah. Who do you like in this range, and where do you think the ownership's going to pool?
So I'm looking at it right now. 7K range. Definitely the chalkiest guy here is going to be Aaron Wise. He's coming in. He's coming in super high owned. People love playing Aaron Wise right now. He's changed his putting to like the broom putting, I guess, and
Terrible.
he's gotten. I think a little bit better with that, and he's scoring now. So Aaron Wise is definitely coming in chalk. I'm fading in chalky Aaron Wise, to be completely honest with you. I'd rather go to like a low own like Kevin Na maybe, coming off of a WD last week, a rib injury. That's the fear that we have with Kevin now is how much, how healthy is he and stuff like that. But at this price with Kevin Na, I don't mind it. He's a Vegas resident. We all know he lives in Vegas. He just announced that he's having his third kid. So he has a little bit of pre-baby swag here. Why not play some Kevin Na? I mean, he coming in super low owned because people are scared of that injury. We know he plays this course a lot because he lives in Vegas. So I like some Kevin Na. Harold Varner, I like also. We're just going on this baby swag theme. He just had Harold Varner the fourth a couple days ago. I am pretty sure he's playing this week. I think I got confirmation that he's going to play this week for sure. Free paycheck. He just has a new kid to pay for, so definitely going to fire up some HV3. But I think the guy that we have to talk about here is Matt McNeely. He's a member at this course. He's a Vegas resident. He has the course record at this course. He's coming in a little bit chalky, not as chalky as Aaron Wise, but what do you think about Mav?
Yeah, I mean, I like Mav a lot. His game, we saw him basically come this close to winning the tournament when Max Homa won the Fortinet. Again, the guy has a course record here. I think you're going to see a lot of ownership there. The question is whether or not you want to eat the chalk with Matt McNeely. The other guys around him, HV3, the models love HV3 because of the stats. His ball striking is phenomenal. And he's got baby swag. So I think for me, I like Mav as a bet, and I don't like him in my lineups. And it's just because anytime we get guys like this where they have a high amount of variability, Aaron Wise, Mav McNeely, and all of a sudden we start to see ownership pool where, they're getting 2-3 times the amount of ownership they would in a normal week. That scares the crap out of me, especially in a field like this. And, there's other names here. I mean, you mentioned Kevin Na, Siwoo Kim, who has been playing better as of late. Joaquin Niemann, who's kind of a forgotten man. So for me, just because of ownership, I'm probably going to stay away from Mav McNeely on the DraftKings side. He will be a bet for me. I can't besmirch playing him because he has been playing very, very well and the narrative around his experience here. But I can't play chalky Mav McNeely.
Yeah, I agree. You have any other guys here? Sergio, Max Homa. We didn't even talk about Max Homa coming off of a win. What do you think about these guys?
Yeah, Homa's interesting. It's really going to come down here in the 7Ks. It's really going to come down to lineup construction for me. How much money do I have, and who can I shove together in here? Unfortunately, if I'm going to start my lineups with a guy in the 10K and a guy in the 9Ks, I'm probably going to have 2 or 3 guys like in the mid 7s. So I think that's why ownership is pulling around Aaron Wise and Varner and McNeely and Gooch, because you can fit 3 of those guys into a lineup.
Right, let's play a little game here. I'm going to read you the last 5 finishes for one of these guys in the 7K range, and I want you to guess who this guy is. His last 5 tournaments, okay?
Yep.
Last 5 tournaments, he's finished 12th, 27th, 9th, 4th, and 16th. Name that guy.
12th, 27th, 9th,
4th, and 16th in his last 5 events. Which are good finishes for someone priced in the 7K range. You know what I mean?
Man, I would say HV3, but I don't know.
No, it's Alex Noren.
You throw the Euro in there. He played really well at the Alfred Dunhill last week or 2 weeks ago as well too.
The guy's just finishing well in his last 5 events. I mean, I don't know if he's found something or if he's playing better, but Alex Noren could be a play here. Why not?
Yeah, here's the thing for me with Alex Noren is when we first saw him, he was an immaculate ball striker. Like his irons were some of the best on the planet. He wasn't a great driver of the golf ball. He never really has been, but when you put an iron in the guy's hand, he was unbelievable. That's completely changed. This new version of Alex Noren that we have, he's literally doing it with around the green game and putting. Like I think he's gained something ridiculous, like 13 strokes putting over his last 2 PGA starts. So that's the part of it that scares me with Noren. His approach game has not been great, or it's not been consistent. He's been gaining strokes putting for a long time, and it's really hard for me to rely on a guy who leans so heavy on the putter. Again, this course isn't going to demand elite level ball striking. And to your point earlier in the show, if you get a hot putter, you can win here. Yeah. I guess I would say that,
I can't deny the finishes. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I mean the finishes are fantastic.
He's not going to miss the cut here, so you have him for 4 rounds.
I don't. With this strong of a field, I would rather go to a guy like Russell Henley. I don't know. That's just me.
I hear you.
It's just me. But I do think if you're going to get a drastic discount on ownership, I could absolutely see a case for Alex Noren.
Yeah, he's coming in sub 10%, so it's not like he's coming in super highly owned. He could be a pivot off of McNeely or Gooch or someone that's more highly owned in this range.
Yeah, the other guy that's interesting to me, just because I love him, I play him all the time, is Charlie Hoffman, Vegas resident. He played, not very well at the Shriners last week, but he never plays well at the Shriners. But he's here now 2 weeks in a row. He's a UNLV grad. I'm sure he's seen this course before. And you talk about ball striking, Charlie Hoffman, man, he got back to where he was last year, which was one of the top 20 ball strikers on tour. But Hoffman's a guy that I just like, and I think with so many people going to Gooch, Mav, and HV3, I think you could get Charlie at some pretty good ownership discount versus where he normally is.
Yeah, I agree. I always like playing Charlie Hoffman. I have a soft spot for him. So yeah, I could definitely see that. He just hasn't been playing that well recently. I don't know what's happened to his game, but he can flip it around. We know how good of a ball striker Charlie Hoffman is.
It's just here's the one thing. Last thing I want to say here. Tell me you're not going to play Justin Rose. Just let me know.
I haven't played Justin Rose in DraftKings in a year, probably a year.
Dude, I had a Justin Rose problem for like 3 years, where it was just like I had to play him every single time. I can't stand the guy. He's freaking terrible.
I feel like him and Jason Day are the same now for me.
Yeah, and he's $900 more than Jason Day, which infuriates the crap out of me.
Yeah.
But
no, I'm out. I'm
okay.
I'm not playing Justin Rose.
Thank God, because I might have to defriend you if you were going to play Justin Rose this week.
All right, 6Ks. Let's go. Dumpster diving.
Yep. So we drop down into the dumpster. It's headlined by Ian Poulter. At the bottom of the list, there's 10 Korean dudes that I'm not even going to consider as playing in this tournament.
Yeah.
But, you've got some names down here. We did talk about your boy, and you referenced the fact of where his game has fallen, and that's
$6,400.
Dick Fowler. Dick Fowler is $6,400.
That's just I'm speechless. I can't believe it. I'm not going to play him at 6,400. He can be 6,400 all he wants. I'm not going to play him, but I would much rather play the name right next to him, Cameron Davis. My favorite play in this range. He is coming in chalky. I'm going to eat the chalk with Cam Davis here. He get him for 4 rounds. We know how good of a scorer he can be. He can have one bad round, but then he can have 6 birdies in that round and sit in 7 bogeys. We just never know with Cam Davis. But get him for 4 rounds. He's my play in the 6K range for sure. And the other guy that's coming in chalky in this range is Johnny Vegas. I know I bet him. I could see playing him in DraftKings also. Not just to play on his name, playing in Vegas and his name in Vegas, but he was good at the end of last year. He was playing pretty well in some strong fields. So definitely don't mind some Johnny Vegas and Cam Davis in this range.
Yeah, statistically, Vegas ranks really, really high. He comes in the stat model on my metrics in the top 5. His last, to your point, 5 or 10 tournaments, he's been gaining tee to green 4 to 5 strokes. So he's been playing really, really well. His best weapon is his driver. And really what's changed for him is he's gaining a ton on approach now, and he's not losing strokes with the putter. Historically, Johnny Vegas is a terrible putter, but as of late, you mentioned it, down the home stretch of the PGA Tour, he putted basically even, and that was the difference for him. That right there, being able to not lose 4 or 5 strokes putting in every one of the tournaments that he was in, he went from being a guy that barely makes the cut to a guy who was consistently finishing inside the top 20. So I think that's why so many people are gravitating to Vegas, is he's going to check a lot of boxes in the stats.
Yeah, and I agree with all that. It seems like him and Davis are coming in the chalk, and then everyone else is pretty much low owned. I don't really have any take on any of those guys. If you're trying to jam in 2 of the 10K guys, and you need to drop down to this range, I guess you can't go too wrong with like Hudson Swafford at the bare min. I mean, he's surrounded by a bunch of these Asian guys who we have no idea who any of these guys are. So Hudson Swafford's a real golfer at 6,000. Lucas Glover's a real golfer at 6,000. Sung Kang at 6,100. He was the first round leader last week. You can't. I mean, in a no cut event, I mean, you can take a flyer on these guys. Why the hell not? I know you like Seabass this week, so talk to me about Munoz.
Yeah, I mean, Munoz to me is really, to your point, he's a real golfer. He's a guy who's won on tour. And when I look at the names in this area, there's only a couple guys like where I could make a case where that guy could have a chance to win on Sunday in this field, in this tournament. You mentioned Cam Davis. Again, phenomenal ball striker. We saw what he did when he won Lockett Mortgage, put a wedge in his hand, let him hit driver. Best recipe for him to have success. That's exactly how he won. And I think you're going to see the same kind of thing this week. Another guy that kind of fits that narrative a little bit is Keith Mitchell. Keith Mitchell is a guy, and again, I know we like him on Bermuda, but the guy absolutely crushes the ball off of the tee. And if he doesn't have to hit irons and he can hit a wedge, all of a sudden he becomes a much better player. But then the other guy is Sebastian Munoz. Like, Munoz is a guy that to me has all of the intangibles to be an phenomenal PGA Tour player, a guy that wins multiple times on tour every year. It's just he
can't put it together for more than 2 rounds.
Yeah, the guy like looks like a stud round 1, round 2, and then he falls apart on the weekend. So I like him just because of the upside when he plays to his ceiling. To me, he has the skill set to compete with anybody on tour. But he could finish T78 this week very easily. So
he's always a good like first round leader bet, something like that.
Yeah. The other guy that I kind of circled on, and I'm not really sure what to do, is Mac Hughes. We saw him in big spots last year at a lot of really elite tournaments, play very, very well. It's $6,100. Again, I realize his best weapon is the putter, but at a course where we're mitigating a lot of the things that can go sideways, is Mac Hughes in play?
Yeah, I guess. I'm not sure. Mac Hughes is always he's a 50-foot putt dependent. So if the thing is, though, we didn't talk about it earlier, but these greens are larger than normal greens. So I wanted to mention it when you were talking about Vic Hovland missing greens and stuff like that. I mean, it's gonna be tough to miss greens this week with these big ass greens, but Mac Hughes is definitely going to have a few of these 40, 50-foot putts, and he's going to make a couple of them. And not surprisingly, he's going to make some birdies here. But we didn't even talk about anyone in the 69 to 65 range. Like, do you like any of these guys? I don't.
Well, I mean, I'm a Woodland guy. Like, he's on brand for me. He's just has not been playing very well. He's still got lingering issues. His best weapon, which has always been the driver, is not back to where it was when he was in form when he won the US Open. So Woodland's out for me. I mean, to me, Streelman is the guy that you just plug and play. He's been playing very, very well. We talked about the fact the distance off the tee is going to be mitigated this week because of the thin air, and hitting fairways is going to be at much more preferable than driving the ball 700 yards. Yeah. So I think Streelman's probably the smartest play. But like you, I there's just not a lot of upside down here.
No.
I mean, EVR, if you want to name names, he's a guy who played very, very well down the stretch. It was all putting, but EVR played very, very well. And then, the other guy is a guy that at a discount when he's non-chalky is the absolute best time to play him, and that's Grillo. And I hear no one talking about him. I don't think anybody's going to own him. And the guy is just an absolute freak show striking the ball every single week. He just is terrible. He might be the absolute worst putter on tour.
We can say that about a few guys. But yeah, I don't really like any of these guys, to be completely honest with you. I guess Keegan, maybe.
There's another terrible putter right there.
Yeah, Peter Green, he's fine. But I think I'm just going to load up on Vegas and Davis in this range and maybe sprinkle in some of the low guys like Munoz and Swafford and stuff.
What about your boy Harmon? You were hard up on Harmon here.
I was hard on him last week. He has such a good history at Shriners, but he just didn't play that well. I don't know. I think he's gotten back to normal Brian Harmon and not finishing second at the Players Brian Harmon from last year. So I like I said with him, I think for him, he always seems to turn it around like, early, like January, February, like, up to the players kind of time, and then kind of tails off after that. So I'll be more looking towards him in like the Sony Open and those kind of tournaments in January and February, but not right now.
Yeah, I agree. The only other guy that I could see going back to is, Mr. Strokes Gain TPC, and that's Cage Lee. Yeah, I could see putting Cage Lee in a lot of lineups for the same reason that I'd be playing Streelman. It's just there's a low floor there, and if you're looking for a guy who's just gonna, score some points and play well, Streelman and Cage Lee. I realize there's no cut, which I would prefer those prices and those guys if there were a cut. But I mean, if you want somebody that's going to put up some points and play well, those two guys are two guys for me that can do that.
Yep. All right, I think that's enough about this range.
Yeah, there's not a lot to talk about. It's pretty terrible. So let's go get into the bets. Yeah. So for me, I'm breaking my rule, which I hate to do, which is dropping below 20. I love Xander and Morikawa, and the narrative around both those guys being Vegas residents, and to me, approach being the most important thing. I'm going there. Abraham Answer at 33-1. Again, if you like Morikawa and Xander and you can ignore what happened last week, which I'm going to do, I think it's a good opportunity to buy in on a guy like Abraham Answer. And then Reed's an auto bet at 65. I recognize he is absolutely terrible, which is why I will not be touching him on DraftKings.
It's a good number though.
Yeah, like my philosophy always is go find value on the board, and Reed has value. And then I was able to scare up a Mav at 80 early on Monday before everybody found out that he has the course record here. His numbers dropped significantly. I've seen some spots where he's like 37, 38-1, but I was able to get an 80, which I'm happy with. I don't put a lot of juice in him winning in a field like this, but I do like Mav at 80, and I'll probably have him like top 5 and top 10 as well too, because I do expect him to play well this week. And then of course my boy Seabass. I love Sebastian Munoz. I have a Sebastian Munoz problem, kind of like I used to have a Rose problem on DraftKings, but I like Seabass this week just as a flyer. Actually, it's funny because when I hit him on Monday at 175, I just checked him before we got on. He was up to 250, so I jumped back in for another sprinkle at 250. So I've double dipped on Seabass, and he's probably going to finish outside of the top 50, but he's just a guy, like I said, that
when you hit a winner, you can double dip on Seabass.
Yeah, exactly. When you're coming off a win, you can get aggressive. The other guys that I mentioned here that I was kind of looking at is Webb. I was tracking his number. I haven't really seen it get to where I like it, so I'm probably out there. Same thing with Hatton. I was kind of waiting to see, and I'll probably end up jumping in on Vegas, but it'll probably end up being like a top 5 bet, not a win bet, just because, man, I just don't know if he can win in a field like this with as many great players as there are.
True.
Who do you like this week?
Yeah, my card here. I'm riding Morikawa with you. I think he's the guy to bet up here. I think he has a really, really good chance to win this tournament. Then I'm just going to my boy Vic, 25-1. Cam Smith, 33. I unfortunately could not get an 80-1 on Mav like you. I just jumped in at 50 earlier today. And then my bombs going Baby Swag HV3, 80-1, and then Cam Davis in Vegas at 125-1.
Cam Davis is the guy to me. I'm going to probably have like a top 5, top 10 on HV3, but Cam Davis is the one guy to me like that could show up and win. He's one of those young guys that he could be on the verge of something, that next layer of guy. He's a freak off the tee, man. He hits the ball a ton. He's phenomenal with wedges and with irons in his hand. And if he can putt like he did at the Rocket Mortgage, man, he's got a real chance even in a field like this.
Yeah, I agree. I hope you hit that 125-1. I'd love to hit that.
Yeah, I hit him at, I think 125 or 150 at Rocket Mortgage. So he's the kind of guy that can do that. Again, in these elite level fields, we typically see the cream rise to the top where, big names win. But Kokrak won last year at like 60 or 70. So it's not outside of the realm of possibility that we could see a guy from outside the top, 45 players in the world win this tournament, especially at an easy course. We talk about it so many times that easy courses bring in so many other guys into play that a guy like Cam Davis at 125-1, could be in the mix. And I think I just talked myself into betting him as well. So I might have to jump on the Cam Davis train.
Before we end the show, I can't help but ask about your boy winning last week. You're and Mike's boy, RCB, on the European Tour, outdueling Adri Arnaus to win the Spanish Open, and both of them outdueled John Rahm to win the tournament. Dude, on Friday night, John Rahm was minus 250 to win that tournament. He was like one stroke back at the lead. It was a lock for that he was going to win this tournament, and he just didn't play well on Sunday for some reason. And RCB came through in the playoff. It's your boy.
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned it to you because we were texting on Sunday as I was watching the finish. He was a staple in my DraftKings for years, and then he just kind of fell apart for the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, you talk about a guy that's just a freak show ball striking. Like that was RCB's like hallmark, was a great driver of the golf ball, immaculate with long irons. He just was a terrible putter. So I'm happy to see him get the home team win. I jumped on, like I mentioned to you, I think it was either after Friday, after Saturday at like 15. So it was a little sprinkle, and I was happy to get a little piece there on him, which was cool. But he played great on Sunday, and you had 2 Spaniards kind of dueling it down the stretch. Him and Arnaud for the win. It's a great tournament. I just, like we talked about Rahm, I don't know if Rahm would have won and you put $100 on him, you won 250. To me, I would rather bet top 5s and top 10s at those numbers than place money at John.
And then on Friday he was minus 250, so you needed like 250 to win 100.
There's just no value in it.
I think I'm going to do something similar this week because for Euros, I'm not betting anything pre-tournament. I think Rahm is just he's going to drive everyone else's number up throughout the tournament because he's going to obviously play well. He's going to be in contention. We know that they're at Valderrama, which is a really tough course this week.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to wait until like Friday, maybe Saturday. And when Rahm is like minus 100 or whatever, like in contention and going to possibly win this tournament, I think I'm going to bet sprinkle on some of these other guys. I'll tweet it out if I do, but some of these other guys their numbers are a little higher, and all they have to do is probably beat John Rahm, which is not an easy task, obviously, but Rahm can obviously have a bad round like he did on Sunday, and these guys are coming in at like 10, 15, 20 to 1 because Rahm is so heavily favored that you might catch a good number here and hit a winner on Saturday.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I like watching the Euros early in the morning. I love live betting the Euros. I love Sunday morning, or I should say Saturday evening, betting the Euros. It's just you can find a lot of value, and there's a lot of variability on the finishes on Sunday. So it's a great way to have some pre PGA sweat going on, is to jump in on the Euros. And like you said, I'm really surprised Sergio hasn't played either one of these Spanish tournaments. He typically plays one, if not both of them.
You mean your boy Sergio? You had lunch with him last week.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So I got invited to play this super premium course in Austin, Texas called Spanish Oaks, inarguably the nicest course that I've ever played in my life, and played terrible because it's a unbelievably difficult course. You can't miss either direction. But I'm sitting down with a guy who invited me to play, and we're having lunch, and in walks Sergio Garcia. And he sat right next to us. And so I'm sitting there having this conversation with him, trying not to stare at Sergio 4 feet away from me. But at one point I got up, I went to the restroom. When I came back, I walked over, shook his hand, told him I enjoyed watching him at the Ryder Cup, was a fan for years. I did not mention the show, which is a total bummer on my part. And then, like I mentioned to you, I didn't have the nuts to say, hey, let me get a picture with you. I couldn't do it.
You could have had him as a guest on the show.
I know. I should have said, hey, let's have you log into the show and participate and tell us who you like this week. I know you're going to be in Vegas.
No, we could have just interviewed him about his life.
Yeah, exactly. But did meet Sergio Garcia last week, so that was pretty cool in Austin, Texas. But yeah.
All right, yeah. But yeah, let's wrap this up. Hopefully I'll see you on Thursday. We can play some golf if you're feeling a little bit better. I know you're a little under the weather. Yep. But once again, from Mike, the Josh Allen, the bonus code for the show, NCMEST 2021 is the bonus code.
Yep. Click the link in the video, follow the prompts, enter it in, and you'll get a bonus of 5 extra entries if you enter that code into the system. I think that's going to do it for us, man. Good show, quick show tonight. Hopefully we hit another winner. And
go Morikawa or go Cam Davis or Matt McNeely. Those are the common bets that we have.
Those are the three guys. Yeah. I'll have some sprinkles on HV3 in Vegas for top 5s, top 10s. Yeah. But I'll be rooting hard for Morikawa and Mav. And Cam
watch DJ just come out and blow this field away.
Don't say that. I don't. Please don't say that. Like he just has not been DJ. Like he played good in the Ryder Cup.
He played damn good in the Ryder Cup.
But I've got to see him do it in a normal tournament for me to jump back in on that train.
Yeah, we'll see. It should be a good event. Let's get some money.
Absolutely. Good luck this week, and we will talk to you next week.
See you guys.